bell,
jingle
all the way.
Oh, what fun it is
To ride in a one-horse sleigh.
jingle bells.
Jingle bell, jingle all the way.
Oh, what fun it is to ride
In a one-horse sleigh. Hey!
And finally, it's my favourite time of year. Well, food-wise anyway, I'm talking about Christmas. Christmas for me is about bringing all the nostalgic recipes from my childhood, where they're basically all my mother's English recipes. Now, the recipe I'm going to do now is a very quick, easy recipe, and it's actually, you can make it if you're doing Christmas baking, so your Christmas cake, your Christmas pudding, your mince pies. These ingredients you're probably going to have in the house anyway as leftovers, so throw them together, make a beautiful chutney that goes on top of it. Now, I'm going to use Camembert, you can use Camembert, you can use brie. In Italy, we also have these cheese called tomino. So whatever cheese you find that can go in the oven will work. I'm using Christmas as an excuse to make this recipe, but you could actually make it year-round. And it's a great way to impress guests as an entree. You could also use it just as an accompaniment for an aperitivo, Christmas drinks. At the end of the video, you can find all the ingredients and the method written for you. Otherwise, you can visit my blog where obviously I have this recipe already published. Okay, so to start the recipe, we're just gonna add the sugar, white wine vinegar, white wine, and water to a saucepan. And we're gonna bring that to the boil. As soon as this starts to boil, we're going to reduce the heat. We're going to allow this to simmer, and then it's just a matter of adding all the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so it actually comes to the boil quite quickly. I am going to reduce the heat. It doesn't matter in which order you add them, they're all going to be mixed in. First, the walnuts, dried figs, glacé cherries, sultanas, dried apricots, stem ginger, pecan nuts, or as my American friend told me recently, pecan, yellow mustard seeds, and we're going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon. You could also add a cinnamon stick if you wanted to, and then just take it out at the end. Okay, we're going to mix all that through. We're going to bring the heat up again. We're going to bring it to the boil, and then we're going to leave it simmer for 20 to 30 minutes. What you want is for the liquid to reduce to half. Okay, so at this point I've turned off the flame, and basically you can see that our liquid has reduced. We've pretty much, it's like making a jam really. The fruit has become all beautiful and plump, and we're going to leave this, and we have to leave it until it gets completely cold. And then we're going to heat it up again, okay? One of the great things about this recipe is if you are entertaining over the festive season and you have planned a big dinner, or you have lots of people coming over, you could make this 2 or 3 days beforehand. I love when I'm planning a menu to have recipes like this, because it just saves me from being stressed and yelling at anyone on the actual day of the dinner. So if you do this a couple of days beforehand, you just have to take it out of the fridge or heat it up a little bit, maybe in the microwave, and then just put it on the cheese and then goes into the oven. So that means on the day of the dinner, you've eliminated a lot of stress. You've already got one plate virtually ready, and when your guests arrive, you will be looking relaxed and tranquil. And you won't have yelled at your husband or your wife. Okay, so once it's cooled down completely, we are just going to continue with the cooking, and it's basically another 15 minutes and then it's done. Okay, so at this point you want to stay close to the saucepan. You don't want to just leave this on the heat and walk away. We've now got a sugary syrup in here, so it can stick on the bottom of the saucepan easily, so you just want to stay close to it and just move it around slowly. Okay, so 15 minutes has passed. This is ready, but what we want to do is we want to allow it to cool completely. I could at this stage, once it's cooled down at room temperature, pop it in a container. I could put it in a fridge. You can put it in pretty jars. You could actually give this as a present to someone for Christmas. It is a beautiful gift to receive. But I'm going to continue with the recipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to allow this to get cold, and then we will continue by putting it on our Camembert that's going to go in the oven. Okay, so now we're just going to put a few fresh rosemary sprigs on the cheese. Now, it may not seem like it, but this actually imparts a beautiful flavour which complements beautifully our chutney. So as you can see, this is cold, and it's obvious it's cold. So when it's hot, it's more sort of liquidy, but when it's cold, it firms up and gets quite stiff. So what we're going to do is we want this cold when we're putting it on the cheese. We're going to pop it onto the cheese. Our oven is preheated at 180 degrees. We're going to pop it in there for about 15-20 minutes and get your serving plate ready, get your cheese crackers ready, because then it'll be ready to dive in and eat. So I'm quite generous with the amount that I'm popping on top of the cheese, but what I really suggest you do as well is heat up whatever is left and pop it in little serving bowls with a little teaspoon. So you might have prepared a whole chopping board with lots of different types of cheeses and fruits and nuts, and you've got all your cheese crackers. I can assure you that people will go dip into this and add it to other cheeses. You might have a really salty pecorino, and I can tell you that that complements well the contrast of the salty cheese with the sweetness of this. Okay, so into the oven we go. Okay, so there you have it. As you can see, a really, really easy recipe, but with spectacular results. Now, the most beautiful thing about this, obviously, is once it comes out of the oven, is the cheese that's all melted and yummy and warm and hot. And so let's stop talking and give it a taste.
Oh, bring us a figgy pudding. Oh, bring us a figgy pudding. Oh, bring us a figgy pudding. And a cup of...
It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get
Merry Christmas to you all.